recording. Check. Lighters up or matches. You shot that no-shoot target right there in the white. And the hole so close together, but you just didn't see your sights. Despite what I said and all that you read, your bullets didn't come out right. And you tried so hard and you hurried, and I cried. And I guess that's why they say every shooter has their flaws. Just like every fishing boat's gotta have their jaws. Just like every drunk girl likes to sing journey songs. Every shooter has their flaws. I know you have your flaws. And I forgive you, and I will always be there in spite of your flaws. Hello, and welcome to That Shooting Show. My name is Steve Anderson. I am your humble host. Want to thank you for enduring yet another musical intro. It's fun. We'll keep doing them. Give me a simple guitar request. Again, no Yngwie. We'll work our way into the Van Halen era. That's perfectly fine. We'll do that. But it is my pleasure to be here joining you today again. And I want to remind you, we are a proud service of Walther Firearms, the title sponsor of this program and of AndersonShooting.com in general. Just extended that relationship for another year into 2025 because the Walther PDP steel frame is the best production type competition firearm I have ever handled. And when you handle one, you will agree with me. And if you purchase one and for whatever reason you decide it's not for you, Walther will give you your money back and you can tootle on down the road under somebody else's tutelage with an inferior firearm of your choice. But it won't be Walther's fault. It won't be the PDP's fault. It will be you and your poor standards and your poor choices. And also CR Speed, as you know, manufactures the finest steel targetry on the planet. Targets USA. What did I say? Let's try that again. CR Speed makes the finest gun handling gadgetry you can wrap around your waist or anywhere else. Targets USA manufactures the finest steel targetry on the planet. The mighty AMG-lab.com commander's timer continues to turn heads and blow minds by putting the time into the tablet. It also continues to blow minds and turn heads by not having a massive lead time anymore. Hunter's HD Gold, as you know, is the only eyewear that I wear. OutdoorDynamics.net remanufactures the finest competition ammunition you can dispense from a Freedom Seed dispenser. John just sent me a big old pack of Anderson's stickers, and I will keep those on my person so that if you see me oot in a boot, I will have those available to give you, I hope. And of course, Shooting Sports Innovations is a lot to type because there is a lot to see. I want to thank everybody that came out and joined us in Louisiana for a very frigid match. There we did match mode training and match mode coaching. That is something that we can do at any range at any time. We can split that up however you want to. I don't like to do a lot of technical instruction prior to any competition. I like to keep that focused on match mode, and then we can shoot the match. If it's a 3-day event, we can do another day of technical training. This event was really cool because we finished the match kind of early and got to do 3 hours of technical training, including shooting while moving on partials and steel. I can't shoot on the move on partials. I can't shoot on the move on steel. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. The mistake that you're making is you're pre-selecting a body speed that disrespects the sight picture. You're choosing, okay, I want to be moving here, and that's great. That is great. But your sight picture is what tells you how aggressively you can move your big, beautiful body while you're shooting while moving. The mistake people make is they choose a body speed that disrespects the sight picture, and then they come to the conclusion, I can't shoot while moving. Well, you can. What you can't do is shoot while moving at any speed that you want to physically. That's what you can't do. You can shoot while moving. And the best thing about shooting while moving is it renders your splits even less important than they are if you're standing still. So keep that in mind. And come see me. All right, so we're going to be in Brazil most of February. Looking forward to that. That's interesting because the entire class will be translated by my buddy Guilherme, who is an excellent translator. And I will learn to speak like this for 2 weeks. And that's so poor Guilherme can keep up with me. It was so funny. The last time I went to Brazil, I was riding to the range and I had water bottles nestled in my gentleman's region, and they perspired and condensated. So when I got out of the vehicle, it looked as if I had had a urination accident. And so I'm meeting these people for the very first time. They kind of know who I am. They don't know a lot about me. And I'm coming up to them looking like I have urinated upon myself with a very wet gentleman's region. All I needed to do next was sit on a chocolate bar for the true Hello Brazil experience. But we'll be in Brazil in the first part of February. March 15th, Nampa, Idaho. I think that one's online. If not, it will be very shortly. March 22nd, we're doing an IDPA event with my good buddy Deshaun in Virginia. So you know that I'm a vast IDP expert. You know that I've been competing in IDPA my entire life. I've actually shot one IDPA match in my entire life. It was an indoor match, 18 rounds, 2 stages. I waited 3 hours to fire 18 rounds, and I said, you know what? This is not really where I want to be and what I want to be doing. Nothing against IDPA, right? Indoor matches are tough. I totally get it. But even though I have not competed much in the IDPA, I can tell you this. If you're not shooting zeros, you don't understand the scoring system very well. Shooting IDPA is very simple. Shoot zeros as quickly as you can shoot zeros, and then use training to shoot zeros quicker than everybody else. But if you're not shooting zeros in competition, I think we need to talk about the scoring system a little bit. We're going to be with Joey Sauerland in Arkansas, June 7 and 8. That one is on Joey's website, which I believe is shortshortsfinelytunedglutes.com or shortyshortssauerland. I don't know. But if you need help finding that, let me know. And we'll get you squared away there. April 12th, we just booked one in Kalamazoo, Michigan. That one is online. April 19th will be an indoor class at Bud's Gun Shop in Sellierville, Tennessee. And we're going to be in South Africa most of May. And we do have some other stuff percolating. Guys, this is really simple. If you want to reach your potential very, very quickly, you can get the class for free. We can do any kind of class you want. I've got a new fundamentals class that I'm just itching to do. So if you're in the sort of C class, B class territory and you really want to get out of C class and B class, this new fundamentals class I've got is going to be awesome. Awesome. And remember, the class sponsor always gets the class for free. Go to andersonshooting.com, click on upcoming classes to see where we're going to be at and where we're going to be, where we're going to do the things. To see where we're going to be and what we're going to be doing. We will be doing mental management at some point in February. I'll look at that today. So if you're interested in doing the online mental management in February, in the comments or send me an email, steve@andersonshooting.com. Let me know the days and times that you want. I'm traveling a bunch in February, but I will be able to find 3 days, I'm sure, to do mental management online. I just want to know what time slots. Right? Typically we book at 6 p.m. Eastern. That works pretty well. Sometimes we do a 3 p.m. matinee. I'm willing to do a 9 p.m. We're doing that today. It's not a problem. I just need to know what time zones, and please do the math for me. I am typically in the Eastern Standard Time. I spend some time in the Central Time Zone, but I'm typically in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. So do the math for me and let me know when you want the class in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. And today we have been inundated by 2 letters. Literally inundated by 2. Number 1, update. I retained the Florida Cup in production. So I had this guy in a class a little while ago, and he was... apparently there's a match in Florida that gives a Florida Cup. So Florida Cup goes to Florida Man. He was the winner before. He's still the winner. But he says, I think I'm having trouble kicking on the subconscious. This match was a tale of 2 halves. I lost 38 points to the field in the first 5 stages and won 83 points to the field on the second half. That same trend is shown by me at Delmarva and Space City. Unfortunately, at a multi-day match like Nationals, you're restarting a bunch of times. Well, there's nothing unfortunate about it. You're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. And what this looks like to me is under trying in the beginning of the match. And then probably stopping under trying later on in the match. So what you have to understand what you have to understand is that the conscious control of speed is always going to be an error. Stand by, I've got a quick little computer thing to fix. The recording should be fine. Everything should be good. I just got to fix a little glitch here. There we go. Glitch corrected. So my screensaver came on and it was incredibly distracting. Okay, so you're probably under trying. You're probably slowing down to get your hits. Getting into the subconscious realm is very simple. You create a subconscious stage plan with positive imprints, and then you choose to see an acceptable shot for every shot you fire. You make that choice. Okay? In the beginning, accuracy is a skill. Later, accuracy becomes a choice. But you've got to disassociate speed and accuracy. So many people think, okay, I've been sloppy. I need to slow down. I must have heard that in Louisiana 20 times. And I keep my electronic ears cranked up so I can hear negative imprints and I can hear the conscious control of speed. The conscious control of speed in competition and negative imprints, primarily in training, are the two biggest problems in the sport. You cannot outsmart the conscious control of speed, and you cannot outsmart negative imprints in training. I don't care how smart you are, right? Those are immutable principles like gravity. And the fact that you don't know this doesn't mean that you're not subject to it. For example, if aliens came down from Uranus and they came to Earth, they would be subject to the gravity of Earth, whether they know anything about it or not. Mental management is the same way. You are subject to the principles of mental management, whether you know them or not, and you cannot outsmart them. But when you learn them and you learn to use them in your favor, guys, it is magical. 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 Okay? All right, so subconscious stage plan, positive imprints. You just put the dot in the middle of the target. You can do that as quickly as your training allows you to do it. And if this is happening, now what we don't know here, we don't know if it is a points thing or a time thing. He's talking about losing 38 points, so we'll look at both of them. If it's time, you slowed down. If it's points, you sped up. If there's a time problem, you're under trying. If there's a points problem, you're over trying. And the interesting thing about over trying and under trying, both by definition, will not allow access to your training or your skill. Your skills live in the subconscious. You can do these things without thinking about them. If you put a speed on them, they are no longer subconscious. Now you're trying to do things, and your conscious mind is having to relearn things on the clock, under pressure. It's not good. And if you're slowing down, okay, so let's say you've got a difficult target. Let's say you've got an 18-yard partial. Oh, I gotta slow down and get my hits. Well, the draw slows down. The movement slows down. The reload slows down. What you need to do is get an acceptable sight picture and a trigger pull that doesn't disturb it. That's what you need to do. Okay? That's never going to change. An acceptable sight picture and a trigger pull that doesn't disturb it. What about my grip? I'm telling you, I've learned to put 11% more pressure in my pinky. I've learned to do some hexometrical, plyometric stuff. Great. That's great. That's wonderful. But it's not going to give you wicked splits at 25 yards on a predictive sight picture. That's not going to happen. But with an acceptable sight picture and a trigger pull that doesn't disturb it, grip will then enhance your ability to do that at a more rapidly rate. All right, next letter that we've been inundated by. If my next match is 1 month away and I only have time to live practice just once before, but dry fire every day, when should the live fire practice take place and what should it look like? Okay, in a situation like this, literally the only thing that matters in the last live fire session, well, there's more than one thing. Okay, so we need a function check, we need a zero check, we need to shoot some groups to make sure everything's working correctly. That's all good. We need to do that, okay? The other thing that we must do is carefully control the imprints during this practice session. What you do doesn't matter as much as your opinion of what you did matters. That opinion is a thought of ability that goes directly to your self-image, okay? When I shot that Steel Challenge match about a month ago, maybe a little longer than that now, I went to the range exactly once in preparation for this match. The only reason I went was for positive imprints. That's the only reason. So that I leave that match knowing that I am capable of putting the dot in the middle of every target, every single time. I was not there to work on my first shot. I've got 2 days. I was not there to work on transitions. I've got 2 days. What I need is positive imprints that give me access to the subconscious skill that I've already got. So what I did, I went to the range for positive imprints. Well, you're just lazy and complacent. No, I'm not. I'm smart. I'm smart because I know my opinions of my shooting prior to a competition is all that matters. Can I put the dot in the middle of the plate? What if? Yes, I can put the dot in the middle of the plate. I can be successful. No amount of pressure is going to prevent me from putting the dot in the middle of the plate. But if I go there to work on my draw and I see numbers I don't like, it's not good for my confidence. If I go there to work on transitions and I wind up with a bunch of wild shots, now I can control the imprints there, but that's still not what I want my last memory to be. Your opinion of your training is more important than your training. Your opinion of your stage plan is more important than your stage plan. You cannot outsmart this, and I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. In your Subarus, raise your hand if you shoot better when you love the stage and love your plan. Oh, I do. I do. And the best thing about a Subaru is even the old ones have adaptive cruise control. That means that the speed is adjusted based on the traffic. Right? So when I drive the Subaru, I may want to be cruising at 75. Well, guess what? Traffic means that I can't. So the adaptive cruise control of the Subaru, the 2015 Subaru, keeps me in check. I would love to be going faster. And when there's traffic, I don't say, oh, I got to slow way down. The car says, oh, okay, you've programmed me to keep this distance from people in the front. So I'm going to control the speed, and as the traffic opens up, the speed will open up. But you got to trust it. And the first time you trust it, you're coming in kind of hot, you're waiting for the car to brake, it will. It will once you learn to trust it, because the singular focus of maintaining the distance between you and the car in front of you is calculated by the computer. That's what you're going to do. You're going to create a circuit between your eyes and your brain that creates adaptive cruise control to handle the different visual conditions that represent traffic. Targets or traffic. Use adaptive cruise control. Quick controlling your speed. All right, now for the topic of the day. Dry fire for technical and mental improvement. All right, the world is full of dry fire programs, and they were all taken from Refinement and Repetition. Every single dry fire book in the world is an adaptation of the very first dry fire book ever written, which is Refinement and Repetition. The reason I know it's the first one is because if there had been another one available, I would have bought it and not written the one that I wrote. Okay? They all owe a debt to Refinement and Repetition. I'm still waiting for the royalty checks, but it's fine. And yes, the adaptations are great. The adaptations are creative, right? But let's get this done correctly. Now, which one do you need? If you're slow and accurate, raise your hand, slowly and accurate. You need to get faster. But you don't want to, because as soon as you start speeding up in training, the shots get kind of sloppy, and now you're like, yeah, you got two problems. Well, hell, before, at least I was accurate. Now this crazy dry fire stuff's made me sloppy. The dry fire didn't make you sloppy. The dry fire made you faster. If you're shooting for score and you're sloppy, you chose to fire the gun outside of the parameters of an acceptable sight picture, or you disturbed the gun when you pulled the trigger. It can't be anything else. Okay, so if you're slow and accurate, you need to get faster technically and subconsciously. Now, if you're fast and sloppy, come to me in live fire. I love, love, love fast and sloppy shooters. You guys just need more points. And you got to learn to do it without consciously slowing down. This is mental, right? We have in the mental management class, we have a great graphic. It is cylindrical and comes to sort of a cylindrical point at the top. Make your own jokes. And then that's top performance, right there at the top of the silo, okay? Make your own jokes, okay? The silo, top performance. Under trying is below the tip of the silo. That's slowing down to get your hits. And then over here, over trying is below under trying. That's rush, try, hurry. Top performance is subconscious skill at a pace that is controlled by vision. That is top shooting. And you've all been there. You just don't know how to get back, primarily because you're an expert in your worst stages, not your best stages. People call me and say, okay, I had a match. Let me tell you about my terrible stage. No, I don't want to hear about your terrible stage. I want to hear about your best stage. That's the model. Don't become an expert in shooting bad stages by talking about them, analyzing, and for the love of Pete and Poughkeepsie, do not post videos of your mistakes and break them down, because every time you do that, every time you see it, every time you think about it, every time you reference it, every time you describe it to your dog, it is literally happening again in the self-image. Okay? So you can call your shots in dry fire, right? Raise your hand in your Subarus if you don't know how to call your shots in dry fire. I will tell you how. Okay? Calling your shots in dry fire is criminally easy. As you press the trigger, is the dot in a good place on the target? That's it. And that's probably, learning to do that in dry fire, that's at least 50% of the way to doing it in live fire. So you might as well practice it in dry fire. The only difference between dry fire and live fire is the sight lifts when the bullet leaves the barrel. And learning to see the sight lift as the bullet leaves the barrel gives you much more precise shot calling. So if you're fast and sloppy, you're going to be doing more match mode dry fire. And I want you to start practicing using a point of focus or a focus phrase, whatever you want to call it. You're going to learn to control this last or only thought while you're performing your match mode dry fire. You probably know center the dot, call the shot is the one that I like the best. Center the dot, call the shot. Okay? That means I've got a circuit between my eyes and my trigger that do not allow the gun to go off unless the dot is in the rough center of the target. Some people say that's too much information for them. Some people say it causes them to overconfirm. Fine. Pick something else. Pick something else to think about so that you're not thinking about draws, reloads, or movement in match mode. Okay? And then you're going to set a par time, a longish par time. Start at 10 seconds. Dry fire anything you want to with only acceptable shots for the duration of that par time, 10 seconds. Okay? Including makeups. The only real difference between match mode dry fire and speed mode dry fire is makeup shots. And I've talked to a lot of clients who thought that match mode meant slowing down from speed mode. Well, why would you do that if you're firing acceptable shots? But you do need to leave only acceptable shots, and you do need to activate the makeup switch. And I would suggest that if you don't have a single makeup in your match mode dry fire, you're either not paying attention or you may have slowed down to get your hits. Okay? Use different size targets. Use big paper. Use little paper. Use simulated steel. And if you like the reduced size targets, this is the best use for the reduced size targets. I do not like targets smaller than 1/3 in general. Those little 1/6 playing cards, I do not like them. But if there's a use for them, it's in match mode dry fire. You're never going to get faster on reduced size targets. So we'll come back to that in a minute. So dry fire anything you want to for 10 seconds, and then change it and add time. Now dry fire anything you want to for 12 seconds. Then dry fire anything you want to for 14 seconds. Do that from 10 to 30 seconds. You're practicing leaving only acceptable shots as quickly as you can see them without the conscious control of speed. Okay, so if you're fast and sloppy, you need more match mode dry fire. It's a decision that you make to leave only acceptable shots without consciously slowing down. Okay, do not track the reps or individual skills. Don't say, okay, I've got 10 seconds, I'm going to go around my corner 4 times. It doesn't work like that. You've got 10 seconds to fire acceptable shots until the second par time. Okay, this should be the majority of everyone's dry fire prior to a match. Match mode dry fire. Include reloads, strong hand, weak hand, any known or expected match challenges. Like this crazy thing they had at Florida State. I was involved in a lot of discussions about that. And that's an example of negative imprints during the stage planning process hurting people. If you're afraid of a stage, you're not going to shoot it very well. And a lot of people I spoke to were literally afraid of that stage. Well, okay, so we know that I've got to shoot some weird position through a little tiny mouse hole. How does my human body need to do that? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Okay, that's something you want to include in your match mode dry fire so you know what to do when you get there, or at least you have some idea. Okay, you've got to carefully control the imprints during your self-image during this process. You cannot outsmart this. What I mean by that is, let's say you set up that little Florida State mouse hole. You've never done it before. And the first thought you have is, this is stupid and I can't do it. Well, that's the initial imprint. That's your initial opinion about your ability to shoot that stage. Okay? That is going to go with you to the match. Your first thought needs to be, how can I meet this unusual shooting challenge? What's it going to look like? And you may not get it right the first time. Okay, good. Let's find another way. Let's find another way. You've got to leave that experience knowing that you know how to do it and believing that you can do it. Here we go again. You're just telling me to suck in unicorn farts and tell myself I'm the greatest. Well, what I'm telling you to do is come out of every challenge knowing I can do this. All the things that I'm afraid of in the past don't matter. What matters is what I am going to do right now with the information that I have. And I can do this. It's okay if you're scared. It's okay if you're anxious. It's okay if you're worried. But you've got to pick a strategy and remind yourself, I can do this. And at the upper level, let's say you're in M class. Hey, I can do this as good as any M class shooter out there. If you're a G, hey, I'm a G, you're a G. It's going to be hard for all the Gs. It's going to be unusual for all the Gs. My chances are as good as everybody in my classification. And that's always going to be true. If you're a B class shooter and they got you doing something weird, your chances are just as good as anybody else's in B class. Okay? So if you're fast and sloppy, it's going to be more match mode dry fire. You have got to learn to call your shots. And you've got to shoot without consciously slowing down. The conscious control of speed in competition is the biggest problem in the shooting sports, followed very closely by negative imprints, primarily in training. Okay? Those are the two biggest problems in the sport. If somebody's telling you to push here and slow down there, they are wrong. If somebody's telling you to be really hard on yourself in training and never be good enough, never be fast enough, they are also wrong. Because you cannot outsmart negative imprints to your self-image during training. Now, here's the cool thing. The conscious mind is always in control of the imprint. You don't have to be shooting, sorry, my ankle gave out there. You don't have to be shooting great to have great imprints. If you're actively working on a skill, it is going to become conscious for some period of time. That will have a reduced performance. Typically, however you're measuring it, that will have some element of reduced performance while you're figuring it out. That's good. Jay Beal looks forward to that. Hey, I just figured out something that doesn't work. That means I'm one step closer to figuring out something that does. The conscious mind is always in control of the imprint. And I'll prove it to you. Ladies, when somebody tells you you look pretty in the morning, hopefully they do. I always do. If you tell somebody to look pretty in the morning, the woman usually says, oh, I look a mess. I'm in sweatpants with no hair and no makeup. Well, maybe that's when you're prettiest. But you are in control of that imprint. Okay? You can choose to believe, hey, I look good in the morning. Or you can choose to believe, this guy is lying to me. It's your choice. That's how imprints work. When you're training, you can choose to believe you're powering through a problem, or you can choose to believe you're shooting like crap. Well, you're just telling me to ignore. I never said anything of the sort. I'm asking you to control the imprints to your self-image because self-image is always a filter for subconscious skill. Always. You cannot outsmart this. Okay, if you're slow and accurate, this is a little bit of a tougher nut to crack, but it can be done. Okay? Refinement repetition drills 1 through 12 with aggressively lowered par times will make you faster over time. But you've got to be aggressively lowering the par times. If you're doing 6 reload 6 in 5 seconds, you got to do a 4.9. And then you got to do a 4.8. And then you got to do a 4.7. And you're going to have some sloppy shots during this process if you're lowering the par times aggressively enough. You should not be stuck at a par time unless you're maxed out. Like, for example, on the presentation drills, I'm maxed out at 0.6. I can't hear the difference between a 0.03 start tone and then 0.2 of par time duration and then the beginning of the second part tone. Part-time tone. I can't hear that. But a 0.6, I can hear that gap. 0.5, I cannot. So I crush the 6. I'm maxed out. I don't need to present a handgun any faster than that ever. Okay? It's just that simple. On the multiple shot drills, what you need to be doing is looking at all of the events. So 6 reload 6, reaction time, hand to the gun out of the holster, support hand on the gun, presenting the gun to the target, firing the first shot. That's like 7 things before you've even dropped the hammer. Pick one of those to do fractionally sooner. It's good for 1/10. It's good for 2/10. Okay? What you're doing is capturing and normalizing the feeling of a higher limit of human function. You're expanding, you're stretching one soapy finger at a time, your limit of human function. Okay? Shots should be called, not judged, during this process, and use extreme care in the creation of imprints. You're not shooting sloppy, you're getting faster. Hey, I am getting faster. Hey, my draw is now well below a second. I couldn't do that a week ago. But when you go to the match, you have got to return to the simple desire of putting the dot in the middle of the target. And you have got to trust that the training you have done is going to reduce the amount of time it takes you to put and keep the dot in the center of the target. I know you want it to be more complicated than that. The shooting industry for sure wants it to be more complicated than that. It is not. Use dry fire to get crazy fast and then go to the match and call every shot. That is literally all you have to do. If you don't believe me, ask Joey Sauerland. If you don't believe me, ask Jay Beal. It's that simple, okay? But when you draw and present a handgun in less than a second, if you've never done that before, that's going to feel very different. But let's face it, a lot of great things feel a little weird the first time. So, make your own jokes. Well, I kind of already did. All right, so we were in Louisiana, and we were working on a little movement exercise. I was showing them how to use the shuffle step for periods when you can't be shooting, lateral periods of movement. And Josh, the PCC guy, he was in like the 230s, and we thought he could do it in under 2 seconds. So you're basically shooting a steel behind a wall, moving roughly 4 feet, and then shooting another piece of steel on the other side of the range. He was in the low twos. Couldn't get under 2 seconds. Okay? And I said, Josh, here's what I want you to do. I can't remember if he was going left or right first. I think he was going to the right first. I said, go to the right, fire a safe shot in that general direction. Go to the left, fire a safe shot in that general direction. So he did it, and it was a 181 with 2 mics. Awesome! I was so excited. We were trying to get under 2, and he did it. Yeah, but, he missed. Who cares? So I asked him, did that feel different? He goes, oh yeah, that felt way different. I said, do it again. This time give me a clean run. Bink, bink, and I think it was a 190. It was for sure under 2, otherwise I wouldn't be talking about it. And it took one repetition in speed mode live fire for him to feel what it feels like to do this in under 2 seconds. So, a lot of guys know what it feels like to do it in under 2 seconds, make your own jokes, but in this case, he did not. He did not know what it felt like to complete this drill in under 2 seconds. And until he knows what it feels like, getting a hit is too much. And it literally took firing 2 bullets in the general direction of these steel targets for him to capture that feeling. And you can turn any drill into a movement drill. Get in your dry fire book. Add movement to it. Okay? If you're in refinement repetition, do the drills for a length of time, not a number of repetitions. So if you've got refinement repetition, or if you're going to go buy it, that's awesome. It's available on Amazon right now. It'll say, do 10 this way, do 10 that way, do 10 over here, do 10 over there. Don't do that. Do each drill for 3 to 5 minutes at or below your current par time. That's it. Know which mode of practice you're in and imprint that you're training in the right direction. If you're having some ugly shots, you're not shooting sloppy, you're getting faster. Remember, control the imprint. This is a necessary part of this practice. A lot of you folks that are new to the sport don't know, but they used to say, it takes 1 million rounds. Sorry, let's try that again. It takes 10 years and 1 million rounds to make master. It did, because the gains were so incremental. They'd get a little faster and they'd complain about being sloppy. They would shoot a little bit better points and they would complain about going slow. It's because they were always consciously controlling their speed. Now, in training, you have to. In training, you absolutely have to control your speed. But in competition, it's always going to be an error. You just need to know, am I in accuracy mode, speed mode, or match mode? That's it. And that's how you define success, and that's how you control the imprint. So, the only thing you don't get to keep from speed mode dry fire is the splits. So for that reason, I don't think they should be artificially lengthened. And here's what I mean by that. If I'm doing a multiple shot drill on 3 targets, I can pull the trigger as fast as I want to because I'm seeing what I need to see. And if I go in live fire and see what I need to see, I'm going to get great shots. Now, my splits are going to be a little bit larger than they are in dry fire, depending on the gun and the distance of the targets, and that's fine. But the splits are the only thing you don't get to keep from speed mode live fire. That's why dry fire and steel challenge works so great, because there's no splits. It's just individual shots. Okay? Now, the best way to improve your transitions, which is it's probably the largest total dead time in the sport. I have to do a little bit of math on this. Math's not my expertise, generally speaking. But if we look at periods of movement where you can't be shooting and sort of look at that chunk of time and then look at the time between all the targets from a transition aspect, I would imagine that the total transition time is greater than the period of time where you're moving and you can't be shooting. Okay? So, the best way to improve transitions is to widen the targets and maintain the par time. So if you've got your 3-target array, they're a foot apart, they're 3 feet apart, and you're dry firing it in 4 seconds, push them a little bit further apart, get back to that 4-second par time. Yes, there's other things you can do. The metronome drill that I just invented a billion years ago is very useful. But for me personally, my transitions got better when I widened the targets and got the same par time. Okay, red shots are okay for a short period of time. Green and yellow is better. Now, let's talk about green, yellow, red. A green is a high likelihood of an alpha. The worst thing it could be is a close Charlie. A yellow is not an alpha, but not a mic. The yellow zone's pretty small. But you don't have time to make up yellows, especially if you're committed to a transition or you're committed to leaving. You typically don't have time. Well, you don't have time to make up every yellow for sure. But red is always going to get a makeup. Red is for sure a delta with a likelihood of a mic. Okay? Now, in speed mode dry fire, you're not going to make those up. And you're going to control the imprint. You're going to say, wow, I crushed that par time. Not, I fired a red shot. Okay? Red shots are okay for a short period of time when you're learning what a new limit of human function feels like. Okay? You're going to have some red shots, and that's okay. Now, my personal journey, I didn't have a lot of red shots in my speed mode dry fire, but it took me 9 months to make GM. If I'd accepted some red shots and if I'd really understood what I was doing, like I was beating it to death with reps. That's how I did it. Now we know a lot more about it. Now it can be done faster than 9 months. Okay? Now, for isolated transition training, what's really important is to call the shot as the dot lifts or the sight lifts. Aggressively drive your head to the new target with the gun right behind the head. Now, obviously in dry fire, the sight's not going to lift. So what I want you to do is aim at something, and I will show you here for you YouTubers. I didn't bring the Walther in, so I have to show you on something else. I will show you this on a Ruger, single action revolver. Okay? Sounds empty, makes satisfying noises. Okay, so I'm aimed over here at the buttstock of some sort of rifle. I'm going to look at the new target. In this case, it's the Manila Folder Owner's Manual of a Kunin 357 Semi-Auto. Make sure I'm not going to whack the microphone. I'll get so much hate mail for that. Double check that we're empty. Okay. Here I am, aimed at this. Look there. Drive. Ooh, I almost hit the microphone. Aim here. Look there. Drive. Stay there. Look over there. Drive. Bend those arms a little bit. Look over here. Drive. Look over there. Drive. I'm driving as quickly as I can. That's how to isolate your transitions. The cool thing about that is it doesn't require a timer, doesn't require your belt. If you're in an environment where you can leave your gun laying around, if it's safe, there's either no kids or they're smart kids and you can leave an unloaded gun laying around, that's up to you. But if that's safe in your environment and you can leave a gun laying around, you can pick up that gun anytime you want to and do some isolated transition practice. Okay, where are we at? Now, shooting while moving. Shooting while moving is always a match mode exercise. I cannot think, I'd have to think about it a lot, but standing here right now, I cannot think of a value for speed mode training and shooting while moving. Maybe at a very high level. I'll have to think about that and come back to it. But for the vast majority of you, shooting while moving is always going to be match mode. And literally all you have to do is hold a sight picture, start with a large target, and move around the room while maintaining the sight picture. You don't even need to pull the trigger. Probably better if you don't. Pay attention to what the sight does as you move your body. Bend your knees a little bit. Do something to be smoother. Look at how you're rolling your ankles. Look at what your ankles are doing. Move your body in such a way that you can hold that acceptable sight picture while you move around the room. Okay, we're getting close to mental management time, but that's okay. We're in great shape. Okay, reduce the target sizes and mix them up. Use a full-size target over here. Use a paper plate over there. Practice going back and forth between them as you move around the room. Again, you don't need to pull the trigger. You just need to be able to hold that sight picture while you're moving, because the problem with shooting while moving for most of the people most of the time is they're choosing a body speed that disrespects the sight picture. I want you to choose a body speed that respects the sight picture. That's it. And then do this for a long period of time. Set a par time for 10 seconds. Do that. Do a different target. You're just moving around the room, holding the sight picture. You've got to allow the body speed and the aggression of your movement to be dictated by the sight picture, not a desired body speed. Again, that is the problem with most people shooting while moving. They think, oh, I really want to be galloping here. Well, your dot says otherwise, pal. And if the sights are loose, you got to calm your caboose. It's as simple as that. If you have a trigger issue, you need to be dry firing groups on a smallish target. You need to aim the gun, accept the wobble, and allow the gun to fire without disturbing that natural wobble zone. Most trigger problems are caused by aiming too much. And if you ever see anybody go to war on steel, they think it's a sight picture problem, so they get better and better sight pictures and they hit the trigger harder and harder and harder. Aim, accept, allow. You could draw and fire one shot at a smallish target and observe the sight as the trigger breaks. But the par time here is not necessary or helpful unless makeup shots are employed. Okay? Now, regarding shot calling, I'm going to tell you again, it is the most important skill you can have as a practical shooter. There's nothing more other than basic safety. Shot calling is the most important skill you can possibly have for two reasons. Number one, you're scoring the targets as you shoot them. You're correcting errors before the RO sees them. And I don't know if it's better, it's pretty awesome. It is not possible to think about individual skills when you're properly immersed in calling every shot. So if you shoot your best when you're not thinking and you haven't learned to call your shots, guess what? Come see me. I'll help you learn how to call your shots, and then you can enjoy shooting while thinking about nothing. So let's just make sure we get this right. Are you telling me that I can score the targets while I shoot them? You're telling me that calling my shot controls my speed as close to the limit of human function as I can get, and you're telling me that I can shoot without thinking? Are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. Okay? Now, the thought I want to leave you with is that the imprints to your self-image will always determine your access to your skill. If you're practicing more and shooting worse, there is a high likelihood that that problem is caused by negative imprints during training. High likelihood. Okay? So, if you want access to your skill, that only comes from short-term and long-term positive imprints to your self-image. And if you can't be positive, you can always be productive. And I will always be here waiting when you come back, and I will always help you get to the next level. I promise. All right, it's time for the catchy catchphrase. Once again, you want to go to AndersonShooting.com, click upcoming classes to see where we're going to be and what we're going to be doing. And if you want to get the class for free, shoot me an email and we will get that done. And now we'll get the catchy catchphrase done. Until we meet again on the range, on the Zoom, on the line, or anywhere else, be like me, do what I do, say it with me. 1, 2, 3, love you, bye, and get to work.